Hello everyone, my name is Peter Alachi. Welcome to Showcase Salem. Tonight my guests are Dr. John Hayes, Professor of Geography at Salem State University, and Adam Siegel of Salem, Mass. Both are on the Renewable Energy Task Force Commission in Salem. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Great pleasure.
Great. So, Dr. Hayes, is it possible that human-made global warming is actually happening?
It's not only possible, it's true. There's just overwhelming scientific consensus that humanity is leading to the increases of these greenhouse gases. The dominant one is carbon dioxide. The combustion of fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas drives our modern industrial society, and we are just pumping and pumping and pumping this carbon into the atmosphere. And when scientists study the carbon cycle, the amounts that are going into the atmosphere now are, we call it excess carbon dioxide, because it's truly in excess of kind of like the natural kind of functioning of the amount of carbon that's been in the atmosphere for over 650,000 years. So it's just unprecedented amounts.
Enormous amounts. I mean, we're talking about billions
yes.
of metric tons they talk about.
Yes.
I mean, this is enormous amounts of CO2 we're putting in the atmosphere.
And so this gas retains heat that the Earth radiates. So the Earth radiates this thermal energy, and these gases absorb it, and then they radiate back. So then if the atmosphere is just so much more effective at trapping the heat that the Earth radiates, it radiates more heat back to the surface, and that's what causes global warming.
Mm.
And I think the wacky weather, but that we're experiencing is a testimony. The models predicted this, but I almost don't like using the word wacky because there's been deaths in the Great Plains from tornadoes these extremes of this weather that we're having are. The models did predict that there would be stronger storms and more and bigger differences in rainfall patterns and stuff, and droughts and stuff. So this extremes of weather, it's happening. It's begun to happen. It's been happening, and it's just more testimony.
So how do you answer the doubters, those who say that actually humans do not contribute much to the climate change, that it is all natural events?
It actually is hard because there's just such overwhelming scientific consensus regarding it. The models have reached a maturity level for predicting climate change that they replicate current climates, and that's an example of how you can see if your model that projects into the future when you put in current data, does it represent the seasonal cycle and the global winds and the global pattern of pressures? And the answer is yes, right?
So these models have been right on target, basically. They've been pretty.
And then they continue to improve, but they're the proper and only tool we have, because the climate system's complex. It definitely is. And some of the naysayers, they want to attribute it to natural cycles, but we know what the sun do. The sun does have irregularity with its output, but it's just we can extract what's going on with the sun from the increases in temperature and the greenhouse gases. So it isn't solar output. It isn't solar variability. And I don't think the naysayers have an answer for this fact that the carbon dioxide gas increases are so in excess, right? And where did they come from? They came from carbon-rich fuels in the crust that stored carbon for millions and millions of years, and we bring it to the surface, combusting it, and so this excess waste gas that's going into the atmosphere is truly additive. It's adding to the carbon of the atmosphere, and they don't have a reply to that.
They don't have a reply.
They don't have a reply to that.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you both are on the Renewable Energy Task Force Commission. Adam,
Yes.
What does the commission do? What's the aim of the commission that you serve on for? You said about 3 years or so you've been on it now?
A little bit longer than that, close to 5 years. Mayor Kim Driscoll, she pulled together the Renewable Energy Task Force, I believe in 2007. And what we do is we advocate for the responsible use of energy in Salem. We're looking to save Salem money. We're looking at the environment and how we can help preserve the environment in Salem.
That's almost like a mission statement, what you're saying, basically, right? That's your mission statement.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
This is the very core of what we're doing. We're also looking at not only the use of energy, but the emissions caused by energy, and how we can help reduce those emissions in the environment.
So how do you inform the public about your work? How do you go about engaging the public?
Well, first of all, on the most basic scale, we're all volunteers. We meet regularly once a month. All of our meetings are, the minutes to all the meetings are on the web and accessible to anyone. There's nothing that's secret about the meetings whatsoever.
Public's in fact invited. They are allowed. We'd love it when they come to our meetings.
That's right.
Sometimes they do.
The third Thursday of every month in the City Hall Annex, third floor. And there are various events around town that we set up tables to communicate with people. One of the main ways that we work to communicate with people right now is through the city's energy manager, Paul Marquis. He has been working tirelessly for the past couple of years for the city, and he promotes our cause. We are volunteers. He's the single person who works for the city, who acts as a sort of an ombudsman in the meeting to communicate our needs.
Yeah. How many members now on this committee?
Is it either 8 or 9? I think we have.
Quite a few,
Eight or nine.
Yes.
Quite a mix of people
Yeah.
on the committee.
And you're all volunteers, of course. You volunteered your
Yes, we
services
did.
essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
How did Professor Hayes? How did you get to work with them? How did you get?
My interest probably began before the task force was formed. Was that under Mayor Stan Usovich, this SAFE, the Salem Alliance for the Environment, contacted me, and they were kind of an instigator to try that the city could become a part of this climate activism that's happening nationwide between cities and towns. And so it was Pat Gazemba of SAFE, and she was a professor of English at Salem State University, and we met, and geography is a discipline that's just really well suited to this. We do sustainable development, we do environmental geography, we do the human and the environmental dimensions of climate change in a lot of our courses. So I agreed that I had students that could be an intern for the city that could help the city inventory its energy use. That's almost like a starting point. You really can't do anything until you, a city, unless they know how they're using energy. They need to compile data and analyze it, and then that can that's information that becomes more powerful. And the starting point is getting this congregated, compiled, and beginning to look. So I had a first intern geography major. His name was Ben Walsh, and he took on a big task because he was the first to do this. And the energy accounts for the city of Salem are very separate. Very many, like I think Adam said, like over 50. I think there were at one time just many accounts, and this was all on paper. And so Ben Walsh introduced the city to the use of Microsoft. That this could be this inventory could be put into Excel.
Can be pulled into Excel. Yeah.
Put into Microsoft Excel, and then it would be allowed for just even simple graphing, bar graphs,
Sure.
and plotting of data. And so that kind of and that just kind of got the ball rolling, and to where you start to, compile data, get into a spreadsheet, and that led to then the city working with the energy companies, National Grid and maybe NSTAR at the time, to have some of our accounts aggregated. Instead of having many different little departments paying a bill themselves out of a budget. So to have aggregated accounts, aggregated data, compiled data, becomes powerful. It's information that becomes that can be utilized by a city and help the city to advance.
Yeah. Professor, you had a second intern by the name of Hannah who worked with Mayor Driscoll. Can you tell us what the work was all about, what Mayor Driscoll did?
Yes, thanks. Hannah Sparks, she was a geography major, and she continued the work of the first intern for the energy use inventory of the city. The city had, and Mayor Driscoll, saw the value of the internship, and plus Mayor Driscoll, I know, met other mayors and town managers and saw the climate activism that's happening, and to her credit, she really just hit the ground running in her first term, and that led to the creation of the task force and the interest in aggregating energy accounts and et cetera. So it really and in fact the Earth Day Planning Committee at Salem State was so impressed with what she did that we named her a Friend of the Earth Award, gave her a Friend of the Earth Award a few years ago. We give 1 or 2 awards every year, and we wanted to reward her for her activism regarding energy use and energy efficiency and sustainability, and gave her a Friend of the Earth Award from the city of Salem State University.
I have to say, Mayor Driscoll, you're a wonderful mayor, so we all love you. So thank you for being there for us and watching for us. So how were you introduced to the task force? How did you get to serve on the mission?
I have been a person who's interested in energy efficiency for a long, long time. And I said that we have a number of highly trained professional people on the task force, but I work as a chef primarily. And well, of course, energy efficiency is important to a chef as well.
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah.
But I was attending Salem Alliance for the Environment, some of their meetings, and I heard that this commission was being created, and I was very interested and wanted to serve the city and do something.
Yeah. I know I met you at the Salem Common Neighborhood Association when we talked first, and you mentioned that you're involved with the wind turbine project on Winter Island.
Yeah.
And that's actually scaling some residents here in Salem, including people who live at the Willows.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say to them to alleviate their fears and their concerns? One of them, of course, the big one is noise from the turbine.
Yeah.
And the ugly structure that's going to be built right in the middle of a recreation park that visitors go to and so on. So why is Winter Island the location? What happened to other areas within Salem that are more discreet, away from the public and so on? Why is Winter Island chosen as the site?
Mm-hmm. Well, this started more than 3 years ago. We actually considered a number of sites around Salem. Looking at Salem High School, looking at which park, Mac Park, and a number of sites. And even looking at SESD, the Salem, where the sewage treatment plant is. Of the city-owned land in Salem that had the best wind and had access to actually bring the wind turbine there, this turned out to be the only site that was possible, Winter Island. Now, once we determined the site, we actually started measuring how much wind was there to be certain of it. You might have, if you're going to Winter Island, you might have noticed that for a year there was something called a MET tower, a meteorological tower, that was measuring the wind at 3 different levels, I believe at 30, 50, and 70 meters.
I think so.
I was measuring the wind at that height. Because if you're going to invest the money in a wind turbine, you want to make sure the wind is there, first of all.
It's actually a requirement, too.
It's a requirement. They would not sell us a wind turbine unless it was going to work. It makes the companies look bad.
So we did that 12 months of data, because you need summer and winter wind behaves a little bit differently as the continent and the shore heats up, so you need to have a 12 months of data to examine the wind resource, and we just, it's there, right? It would be a commercially viable commercial turbine, and so
commercial turbine, when you hear that word, you're always afraid of the level of noise it might create. I mean, has there been acoustic studies done to show that there isn't much noise from the turbine? Or there won't be much noise?
Well, part of the issue regarding wind is that the technology's evolved. And so what's on the internet can be images and audio and etc. from old turbines. So that's part of the issue. I've stood into a wind farm in Ohio of 4 large commercial turbines, and it's just it's so quiet. And I heard you say that some people think they're ugly. I think that's almost a minority view. When people have seen turbines, they're almost awesome. They're beautiful, you know, and they have this, it's this quiet, and when you think that this quiet resource is creating clean energy, it can help power our society, and it's doing it cleanly with no emissions. You know, it's just, so that's part of the issue, is that what's on the web. Turbines have evolved. They are quieter. They're also, they produce more power now, so smaller, they have gotten bigger, right? And, and so 1.5 and 1.6 megawatt turbines are, that's about the smallest you do anymore, right? And that's the size we want to do. There are turbines bigger, and there's bigger turbines out in the ocean, and, you know, and, in terms of the location, Adam's right. It's got a good resource. It's got a good distance from homes, like over 2,000 feet, or is it? I forget.
Not quite 2,000.
Not quite 2,000 feet.
The nearest home is the plumber home.
Oh, the nearest home is the plumber home, right? And
Yeah.
then there's a gap to the residences. So it is a good location. It's also on the far side of the Winter Island in terms of it's not near the campground. It's not near the beach. And right below where, you know, there's boats and there's all kinds of. I mean, it's a utilized waterfront. I mean, there's a campground and a beach over here, but there's boats there, and there's, you know, and it's not like it's a pristine. You know, there's it's a work. I mean, it's not working, but it's a well-used environment, and the turbine's going to be over on that near the harbor master's rock right there up above from the harbor master. And it's not quite as commonly utilized part of the park.
And New England has multiple turbines already operating, especially in Maine, right? I mean,
Maine, Vermont, yes.
Yeah.
And if I could mention, you don't have to go as far as Maine or Vermont. And
good point.
people hear a lot of things about wind turbines from reading the internet. But the best thing you can do is to trust your own eyes and your own ears. And we're lucky because you could go to Ipswich. Ipswich has, I believe it's a 1.6 megawatt turbine on Town Farm Road in Ipswich. Go there on a windy day. Don't go when it's quiet. Go there on a windy day and listen what it sounds like. I believe it's quite beautiful. An even better example, because it's located closer to homes, is in Hull. And Hull has two large wind turbines. One of them is right on the edge of a high school football field or soccer field. And I've been there when it's spinning. It's not a noisy presence at all, and they've welcomed it. They've considered a third turbine. In Ipswich, they're considering I believe, I'm not sure if they passed it, but they're considering a second turbine. Beverly is considering one. There are towns all up and down.
Massachusetts has got one, right?
Yeah.
Massachusetts out in Western Mass.
Well, there are towns all over Massachusetts that are considering it. And the reason why is that there's a great payback on these turbines. They earn money for the town by a resource that they already have. Salem, we really have to be looking at every dollar that we spend. And if we purchase this turbine, we could be looking at between $200,000 and $600,000, and that's somewhat conservative, coming in per year from this turbine. A lot of people have said that they love Winter Island, and they would like to see it restored. They would like to see some of the falling infrastructure they are taking care of, and this is something that could take care of. This is something that can help fund restoring Winter Island. Some of that money could be specifically earmarked for Winter Island.
Another impact I read about by doubters and people who oppose the wind turbine is that it kills birds. Is that true?
Just like skyscrapers do, yes. So yeah, that's birds crash into glass.
I know.
All over in large cities all over the world.
I could speak to that.
Yeah. The answer is they do, but I think, but you can avoid major migratory pathways and.
So there has been an environmental impact statement done on that already.
Well, you know, for me, one of the clearest voices advocating for birds is the American Audubon Society, and they have come out unequivocally supporting wind turbines.
Yeah.
And it's true that wind turbines can kill birds, but far more birds, millions of birds are killed every year by skyscrapers, by buildings, by cats. Cats are a major predator of birds.
Tell me about
And,
it.
and there were actually an estimate of the number of birds that a turbine in New Jerusalem killed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was far less than 100, actually. I don't like to see any birds killed, but, but for me, the benefit that this could provide is worthwhile.
And you mentioned a lot of environmental groups are on our side, on the side of the Commission right now. Can you mention some of these groups that you're working with right now?
Sure. There, Salem Alliance for the Environment has come out in support of it. Salem Sound Coast Watch, Clean
Water Action.
Clean Water Action has come up. New England Law, New England
Conservation Law Foundation.
Conservation Law Foundation.
Conservation Law
Thank you.
Foundation.
Has come out in support. Yes, it's been a
Number of them. I mean, to continue with your question, I mean, why not water turbines? Why not harvest the energy in water? That was proposed actually initially for the power plant, Dominion power plant conversion.
To use the tide to turn to
tide
a
energy,
turbine.
right?
Because we have an enormous amount of tidal flow.
Right.
We're on the coast.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's just experimental. I mean, there are these tidal energy projects that are happening, you know, funded by some governments, but I think it's a research. It's a research.
Right now, it's still in the development stage.
For sure,
it has an enormous amount of potential.
Yeah.
But the engineering of building something underneath the water with the moving parts, it takes a lot of abuse and getting the energy to shore. We're just not quite there yet, but there's an enormous amount of potential for it.
Yeah. So it seems like wind is it. So what is the typical timeline to build the turbine?
Well, our next step with the wind turbine is we would receive a grant for about $400,000 that would look for construction of it, that would look at the plans for the construction and building of the turbine. Now, every step along the way has to be approved by the City Council. This is not the Salem Renewable Energy Task Force making decisions by fiat about what's going to happen in Salem. This is we recommend things to our elected city councilors, and they make the decisions about it. In the end, what we're proposing is that Salem issue a bond to pay for a turbine, and the city councilors would have to approve this. And I think we're looking probably about 3-4 years down the road is what we're looking at. It's not easy, even once you have the money, it's not easy to get the turbine. They're in such high demand. The companies that make them, such as General Electric, they like to sell large groups, large amounts of them, but to buy one of them is not that easy, but it's certainly possible.
So they're not pre-manufactured, so it's ready to go. They have to be done to specification, you're saying?
I couldn't answer that. But I could say it takes a lot of planning. They are enormous. It takes a lot of planning to get it there and to get it erected and get the equipment there.
And then once erected, it has a relatively small footprint.
Exactly.
Because the concrete is into the ground to support that weight.
180 square feet is what I read.
Right.
So do you guys get in touch with the Swampscott Planning Department regarding projects always, or?
We did a little bit with the Green Communities Act, because the way the Department of Energy Resources for the state or Commonwealth of Massachusetts worked was they had kind of like advisors and could kind of facilitate cities and towns to become a green community. And so we shared. There was a woman whose responsibilities were included Salem and Swampscott. So was it once? I don't know, once or twice we met. A few times we met, and to just help us. But that we still are developing our own to be a green community. Individually, it's still done at the individual city or town level. But if two cities or towns are exploring the options and are realizing that they do want to apply for the green community program, then they can be learning together, and the energy managers and the task force can be learning together. And it's kind of more efficient to the state too, so we could have joint meetings a couple times. And
you were involved, Professor, with the Earth Day program at Salem State University. Can you tell us about the program? What I hear the topic was sustaining our oceans, key to Earth's future. Why are the oceans key to the Earth's future? I mean, we eat fish and everything, but is that it, or is there more to it?
There's a little more. We have a theme every year, and first off, Earth Day at Salem State it's a collaborative venture between faculty, volunteer faculty, and representative student clubs. It's largely in the College of Arts and Sciences, and we began it. It was resurrected in the fall of 2000, so that we had our first Earth Day in the spring of 2001, and it began for the first 3 years, I think, as a one-day event, and then we've now, for the last about 7 years, it's been a full week of programming, films, panel discussions, poster competition, and just to shorten the story, we have a theme every year. We've had climate change, waste, fresh water, and we'd always wanted to kind of do the oceans theme, and we finally just seemed like this was the right year for it, and we tackled overfishing of the oceans, we tackled ocean acidification, we tackled ocean pollution, we tackled extinction of species of fish, and so it was a great week. And if the audience wants to know, there's a formula for when it occurs. It is always the week before Patriots Day.
Hey,
so
that's an easy one to remember.
So there you go. Salem, there you go. You're welcome to all of our events, films, panels, and it's always a full week before Patriots Day.
Oh, hey, John?
Yes.
I've heard this term ocean acidification mentioned a number of times. I think it's a pretty important one that people don't. It sounds like a very complex thing, but can you explain ocean acidification and why is that an important thing to watch?
It's sometimes called the other CO2 problem, and when I was a part of a collaborative learning community on climate change this past fall, and me and two colleagues, one from geography and one from the Department of Philosophy, because she does environmental ethics, we tackled, this was one of our big themes, was ocean acidification, and Adam, the more I learned about it, I'm just even more worried. It's sometimes called the other CO2 problem, and it relates to that the oceans have really helped the planet fight heating up due to greenhouse gases, because they have a capacity to take in some of the carbon dioxide gas, but they have a finite capacity to do that uptake, number one, and then number two, carbon with water makes a carbonic acid, and so the oceans are getting ever so slightly more acidic, and so pH in an ocean is incredibly important to the ecology.
Yeah.
And so so the pH is lowering and getting a little bit more acidic, which the oceans are alkaline, but if you get less alkaline, that's the same thing as saying you're getting a little bit more acidic. So this is ocean acidification, and the pH, we have organisms now that can't manufacture shells properly.
Shelled organisms.
So the ecology of the oceans is going to be affected by the pH, and coral reefs are bleaching.
Coral reefs are dead.
It's scary. And a lot of us think that oceans and the protein that they can yield is important to humanity. Right? So here we are then messing with the pH of the oceans, which is going to affect ecology, and which could affect fish.
Well, Professor John Hayes, thank you so much for being on the show. Adam Siegel, thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll see you again on Showcase Salem. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.